Hello, and welcome to the Exact Marketing Advice Podcast, where we take a little road trip state by state and we help you figure out your favorite businesses on helping you make money in all regions across the country. And today I have with me Mr. JB Floyd. And so I'm going to give him a moment to just kind of introduce himself and tell you a little bit about his agency.
Sure. I appreciate that. So we're in St. Louis, Missouri. We've been around since 2018. I've been in the digital world another 5 years on top of that. And we like to find clients that we can work with that are clients for life. And that's what I consider a client. Our focus is really helping a client do one thing. And that one thing is generate phone calls so they can get business. A lot of times people, do rankings for local that don't really count. And so we focus on every keyword has to count. And there's additional things that we do. We help with sales and marketing, assist within a company if they need help to get the best experience out of their SEO, our SEO efforts, I guess the best way to put it. And we love having clients that, that we can sit down with and talk about family and friends and what's going on. And we're not just a vendor, but we are a true partner with them.
Absolutely. So just a quick question here. What are like some of the unique challenges that you guys have encountered, marketing to clients specifically? And, how would you say that you guys differ from some of the other agencies? What are some of the things that set you apart?
Sure. One of the challenges, we have two biggest ones. One of the challenges is we'll get a hold of a potential client and they've been burned by a not so good agency. And there's good agencies out there, but there's also a lot of what I call cowboys. They thought they can make a lot of money, but they don't know what they're doing. And so what'll happen is, a potential client's already paid an agency maybe 4 months, 6 months, even a year, and hasn't really seen any results from it. They may have rankings, but the rankings are not the right ones. And so the other side of it is that they may not be able to handle the influx of calls coming to their company, or the flood of customers if they're a retail type place, because they're not set up to handle that. When you first start a business, you're at, here when it comes to influx of customers or clients. But if you do some marketing and it goes well, all of a sudden you go to here.
Oh.
And that gap might not be where it needs to be to fill in to handle it. And so a lot of our consulting, because I've been, so long in sales and marketing, I've run sales teams, I've developed sales teams, I've, helped develop companies in their customer service also, is to help them where the challenge comes is, how do we handle these phone calls? What's the time to the phone call? What's the, do we have a good software that captures the client information? And do you have things to, like, now it's a lot of AI chat bots, but is that information being fed into your, what do you call a customer, a CRM? And is that information captured? And then how are we handling that? Now, I know that sounds kind of complicating or maybe overwhelming, particularly to a smaller company. It's not, if it's done right. So we work with our clients to make sure that they have everything together, that the workflow that's going to increase can be handled without, losing the minimum amount of potential customers or clients, and with the minimal amount of pain involved. There's always some pain when it comes to growth. That's just the way it is, but we try to minimize that and, make sure that they don't have a bad reputation. One of the worst things that I can see is when you go on their social media and look at their ratings, and you'll have people over and over say, I called, left a message, they never called me back. They came out and did an estimate, or they came in and, we talked about that, and I didn't hear anything back from them. And that kind of stuff happens. Is it the owner's fault? Does he want to lose business? The manager's fault? Do they want to lose business? Absolutely not. But they're not equipped, not trained on how to handle that. And that's where I see a lot of the problems.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, absolutely. I definitely think that's a pain point, especially that small businesses face today, for sure. Well, another question for you. So I know you said, there's so much that changes in the world of SEO, and you hear so much about like all these Google updates and how everything that changes there. How often do you see that Google makes changes, and how often does the process for SEO change?
Wow. Well, I tell you what, I'll call back in the old days, the 90s and 2000s, it may be 6 months or a year, but sometimes 2 years before Google would do any kind of major update. Now it happens often, several times a year sometimes. And so, we set up an SOP, a standard operational procedure, so that we're staying on top of all that. But it can get a little overwhelming, even for an agency. But again, there's always a way to make sure that it works, and that you do it what we call white hat. In other words, honestly, and what Google wants to keep a business up on top. It's just that certain things change. But I would say in general, if you just do things the right way without trying to skip something over here, or be a little bit too loose on something over here, if you do things honestly and with integrity, you usually don't have a lot of problems. Now, sometimes I'll say that with a grain of salt, because sometimes Google will have an update that was right when you were doing it and now it's wrong. And so you got to change those things, but so far we haven't had any issues. There's been some times we maybe had a day or two of glitch until we got things updated, but nothing that really the client saw as far as loss of revenue or anything like that.
That's good to know. So if you have, like, let's say a small business owner who's watching this podcast, who doesn't have an agency, who's just trying to handle things maybe in-house right now, and they are doing a little bit of SEO to the best of their knowledge, but all of a sudden they're just seeing their Google Analytics, they're just crashing, and they feel like they're not doing anything different, and they can't figure out what's wrong. In situations like that, I always tell people it truly is best to like reach out to the experts, because there's so much that's changing on the back end. And like you said, it can be right 1 minute and then it can be wrong the next minute. And I think that's why it's so important to like just stay up to date with your agency, have somebody who truly, I always say SEO is kind of a world unto itself. It is this own little room, that, and those who live in it and work in it day to day see it. But when you're outside that room, it's really hard to know like what's changing and what's happening. And so, what advice do you give to that small business owner who's just in the middle of that, just having that true pain point of, we're doing everything we know to do. How do we fix this? What are some steps that we can take?
Well, so the first thing is that when I talk to a business owner, I say, I started my own business a couple times, right? I've had this agency. I started out with me, myself, and I. And so when you first start out, you have to do everything. You don't have a budget to do anything else,
Right.
and that's understandable. But you reach a point that if you want to grow further, you have to look at your return on your investment for each part of the company that you're handling. So if you're in services, then more than likely, if you're in growth mode, you're still out there doing services. You may have one or two people, but they're usually handling the lower end stuff. But the high end stuff, you're either have them with you or you're there by yourself. Okay. So that's one part that has to stay like that. right? Because you don't have the personnel, you don't have the money to hire the personnel and train them. Maybe you can hire them, but they're not trained yet to handle, larger type things. Well, so then on your operational side, do you have an accountant? Most of them I find do, because who wants to do taxes and go through tax code when you're through a business? I know I don't. Tried it once, and not that won't happen anymore. So if you're willing to outsource your accounting, if you're willing to hire people, because hiring people is really outsourcing, right? Because they're supposed to take the load off of you, So doing that, you're already outsourcing something that is not your expertise, but you need someone with an expertise that you can trust. Well, marketing's the same thing, even, like I had a roofer, and he was like, "Oh, I'm not ready for your SEO, and stuff like that." And I said, "Look, I want to tell you what to do. Go get some door knockers. Every time you're working on something, take your low-end helper employee and have him run around and put those on all the doors in about a 2-block radius while you're working when you first start." Okay. And I was like, 50 to 70 of them out, at least. And he started doing that. He was getting at least one job per 50 that he put out. Now, do you look at that? Is that a game changer? No, but it was increased revenue.
Absolutely.
Which afforded him the ability to bring me in and doing the digital marketing. So, there's things that you can do to generate, but the biggest thing is that, if you want to stay small, well, that's fine. Do your own stuff. Okay. More power to you. If you want to grow, you need to outsource. Okay. The parts that is away from your core abilities. Okay. If you look at like, a corporate CEO, the CEO go and do the mail? Do they do their own marketing? Do they do their own sales? I mean, they don't. They've built an organization around them that can handle all that. So same thing on a smaller scale. Okay. And, do you really want to spend the time to learn SEO and update everything? Because it's going to take you away from your job, just like me. I'm not going to get on my roof and repair my roof. I'm going to call you, as a roofer, or I'm going to call you as a plumber, or I'm going to go to the doctor or wherever. I'm not going to do all that stuff myself because I don't have the expertise and I don't have the time.
No, that makes total sense. And, I say when it comes to the SEO game, you have these businesses that do nothing and think that they can stay in the same spot. I believe that is a non-truth, because while you are doing nothing as far as your SEO goes, your competitors are doing something. And so they're continuing to grow, whereas you can't just stay the same. In order for them to grow, you fall behind. So like, what is your perspective on like the competitive landscape across businesses in SEO?
Well, I consider SEO like the old yellow pages and billboards. Okay. Now, when you went to get yellow pages, if you just put a little line there, XYZ company, address and phone number, you're not going to get any phone calls except from people trying to sell you something. But when you take that full page out, add out, particularly like, my clients like attorneys, when you took that full page, you got there. And you used to see companies would name themselves A plumbing. So they would be in the front of the page, the first one, and they take out a full page, right? So that was paper SEO, that's what it was. Yeah. And the same with billboards. Billboards, the more traffic that highway gets or that road gets, the more expensive that billboard is.
Right.
Right. So, I always give this analogy, you can build a beautiful billboard, but if you build it out in the middle of the forest, what good is it going to do? It's absolutely nothing. It's a waste of money. So the same thing is that you want yourself to be in front of the traffic that is interested in your services. And that's the cornerstone of SEO.
No, that's absolutely. I totally agree with that. I say you can build the prettiest website in the world, but if nobody sees it, is it even there? It's like what is it that if the tree falls in the forest and nobody's around to hear it, did it make a sound? And so it kind of is almost that same way with with a website. You can spend thousands and thousands of dollars building out these amazing websites, but if you're not getting any traffic to that website, it totally defeats the purpose of having a really amazing website. So,
Tasha, she's exactly what I say, because it's like this. I would rather somebody spend $1,000 or $1,500 on a website and spend $3,000 or $4,000 in marketing. You can always make the website nice, but really a website is what I call a lead page. You want fill out a form, call or text, and give them a great call to action. We knock $200 off, or you get a free this, or something like that, right? Free consultation, whatever. And to get people to want to do that. That is the, old times the website was there to do all this information and tell you about us and all this kind of stuff. People don't do that anymore. A good, nice, clean website with a little bit of information on it, where you're at, some good reviews stuck on there that are hopefully static, they keep updating, and good call to actions. That's what you need, and you don't need to spend a lot of money on that nowadays.
Right. That's a good point. And and I've seen these people that they go out and they have these amazingly beautiful websites, but then when you kind of dig into the background of those websites, you find out that the baby's not very pretty, so to say. So how do you speak to somebody who has what's considered a great looking website, but it does not meet the functionality so that it can be crawled properly by Google so that people can find you? Talk about kind of the misnomer of a great looking website. It has to look good on the back end too. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Well, let me say this. I have not seen a website developer that's good at on-page SEO. And I haven't seen a good SEO person, on-page SEO, that knew what to do with a website the right way.
Oh, that's a very good point.
Right? So like for me, I don't do websites, but I'll put you in touch with people I trust, and I even tell people I don't make a dime off this. I'm not worried about it. I just want it done right. So again, it's the same thing that we go back to the billboard in the forest,
Right.
Spend $5,000 and build that website, but if nobody sees it, what does it matter? I mean, if you go by, like, what would be a favorite dream car of yours?
Lexus.
Okay. So you go get this Lexus that is maxed out to exactly what you wanted, even maybe a custom paint job just for you. Okay. And you go park it in the garage and never take it out. What good? That's not doing you any good. And you don't, because the first thing I do, I buy a car, I go to my friends, after my wife. but I go to my friends. Yeah, hey, I want to show you my new car, and you want to, I drive a car for comfort. I want, something comfortable, and you don't get to enjoy that car with the newfangled duty dad, whatever it is. Okay, it just sits there, and it's not worth anything, and so don't get caught up in that. You want it to look nice. Okay. It's good to have some video on there. It's good to have some real pictures instead of AI pictures. It's good to have all that stuff. That stuff's important, but don't get hung up on it. It doesn't have to be insanely beautiful. And again, there's an old phrase in sales: everything's funny with a pocket full of money. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, build your business. And when you're making a lot of money, and you say, hey, I want to reinvest in my website, then great, knock it out. But all that coding behind there, this if it's done right, is what the value is. There's all the value. It's not, I mean, as long as it just doesn't look like, a third grader designed it, you're okay. Of course, I don't know. Some third graders I've met could probably design a better website than I've seen also. So
That is true. That is true. And you kind of hit a buzzword there that has been really like everywhere for the last little bit. So tell me, like looking ahead in the next 12 months, like what growth opportunities are you most excited about? And how do you think AI, being that buzzword, how do you think AI is going to affect the next 12 months for SEO?
well, I believe that like a national SEO programs are going to fade in um, quality. And I believe that the AI, when you can go on Chat GPT and type in, who's the best SEO agency in the USA, and LeadValet's, my company, pops up, that's going to be important because I don't care what anybody else says, it's going. Now, local SEO, I believe, will always be there. The Google Maps and that's got that kind of stuff, that still will always be important, because people are not going to go on AI and look for that. But AI on the bigger scale is going to be it. And AI getting things right. AI is getting very, very smart now. It's people are inputting a lot of information and it's feeding itself, and it's going to get really good now soon, you know. And so that's where you need to look at is whatever you can do to get AI to work for you. I say go for it.
So, do people need to be cautious about using AI content within their websites? Is Google pinging you for that in any way, or
Well, you've got two things. So keep in mind, AI is not really AI. AI is feeding off of what is already out there. Okay. So you got two problems there. You got other people's junky remarks or papers or written content or whatever, and then you've also got plagiarism, right? So what I like to do use AI for is to frame out the basics. Like if I'm writing an article, to go through and find the title of the article, the subtitles, and then I take that and start tweaking that, and then from there I write in between to get that. Now sometimes I'll go to AI if I'm a little stuck, you know, especially if I want like a reference or something like that, a study or whatever. Then I'll use AI to pull that, you know. But the human content, the what I call the madman, right? The ad agency, the ad copy, it's still important, because what comes out of here or here and gets on paper or gets on video, it's just like you and I couldn't have this with AI. It wouldn't work, you
right?
know, it would sound awful. And one of the big things I really don't like is AI voice. It has not reached a point yet where it's viable. It's still just not quite there. So, if you've got voice, hire a voice actor or use your own. I always tell people, if people like authenticity, okay? And so being authentic is more important than being perfect.
No, I totally agree with that. So, just a quick question about how you kind of structure your teams in order to best serve your clients. Can you talk a little bit about like how your agency is structured and how you're meeting the needs of your clients?
Sure. So my biggest thing is, well, I look at customer service starts with the first contact and ends when the company ends doing business with you. Everything is based. So whatever contact person I have, even if they don't have a lot of contact with clients, they have to be aces on customer service. Everybody. Okay. That's the first thing. And I always tell them the customer's not always right, but they have the right to be wrong. Okay. And so you have to look at, what's your goal here? The goal is to help your client and to alleviate fears or stress. Okay. And so do that. Don't lie to them. Don't tell them they're right when they're wrong, but there's ways to do that. That's the first thing. The second thing is I try to structure with my employees and subcontractors that we build heavy on the front end we keep management as lean as we possibly can. And as long as a person will self-manage themselves, then I only have to have a kind of higher up to oversee the whole thing. Like I always tell people, I say, you're the lead at whatever you do. You know, I don't care if I have 5 SEO people working on it. You're the lead SEO if you want to be. If you don't want to be, maybe you need to find somewhere else to work. So that's how I try to structure it. Very loose on middle management. And, so any of the people can talk to me at any point, and everything. And that I want to keep it that way. And that's why, I love growth and I want to grow, but at a certain point I'm going to stop. I'm going to, curb it some because I want to be able to have that direct contact with everybody. I don't want anybody to feel like, you can't talk to him, and stuff and everything. So that's the thing. And I try to look for people with a little experience. They know what they're doing, not a lot, because usually they've been trained the wrong way and, or at least they haven't been trained my way. That way,
Right.
like the old military saying, there's a right way, the wrong way, and the Army way, right? So, I've got my way that works within my company and it's produced success. So I want them to a little experience and knowledge, but everything else we can build on. If they have the right attitude, that's the biggest thing for me. If you got the right attitude, we can do business. If you don't, we can't, I don't know. There was an old motivational speaker. He's been passed away for many years, but his name was Zig Ziglar. Mm-hmm. And one of his best quotes I always remember was that your attitude directly affects your altitude. And I firmly believe that. None of us have a good day. Does anybody have a great day every day? Usually not. Usually there's some stink that comes our way, right? But if you have the right attitude, we can move past that. We'll get it fixed.
No, absolutely. So if somebody is a business owner, business manager, and they're looking to increase their SEO, get noticed, can you tell them what's the best way to get in touch with your agency? Who do they need to reach out to get the ball rolling? What would be next steps to move forward?
The easiest way, call or text me, 314-571-7101. That goes direct to me.
Okay.
I'm going to be your first point of contact.
Awesome.
All right. And, the second thing is that be willing to take some time. We take a look at your website. We take a look at what you've been doing. And then we come back with honest answers. This is right. And that's not so right. Okay. This is what we're going to have to change. And be willing to accept those changes, to put the pride down and look at, what's real. I promise we will be gentle. Okay. But that's the best thing to do. Just call or text me anytime.
Okay. And if somebody wants to check out your website, can you give the website for them to visit?
Sure. It's LeadValet's.com.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been very informational, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that get a lot of great things out of this. So we appreciate your time and lending your expertise to the conversation.
Tasha, it's been a pleasure. You're awesome. Look forward
Absolutely.
to want to do this again. Let me know.